Welcome to another video of Do-It-Yourself Easy. In today's video, we will learn how to create a Gantt chart from scratch. Before we dive into the process, if you prefer to use a pre-made Gantt chart instead of building one, Excel offers several templates for you. Simply go to File, select New, and type Gantt chart into the search bar. As you can see, there are multiple templates available. Click on the one you like, select Create, and your chart will be ready. However, if you want to learn how to create a similar chart step by step, stay tuned because we'll explain everything now. Let's get started. Building the headers. To begin, let's create the headers for our Gantt chart. For this tutorial, I've already copied the headers from my original Excel file to save time, and I'll paste them directly into the spreadsheet. Once the headers are in place, we need to determine the start date of our project. Let's set the start date as January 1st, 2025, and for the finish date, we'll go with a 2-month project duration, ending on March 1st, 2025. Next, let's format the dates. Select the cells containing the dates, press Ctrl+1, and choose a date format that displays the month. Align the text to the left for better readability. Now, before adding the dates to our chart, let's merge the headers with rows 7 to 9. To do this, select A7 to A9, hold Ctrl, and repeat the process for the other headers. Then click Merge and Center to align everything properly. In cell J9, we'll add the project's start date. However, we want the project to always begin on a weekday, even if the chosen start date falls on a weekend. To achieve this, we'll use the IF, Weekday, and Workday functions. Start by typing the IF function. The first condition checks whether the start date falls between Monday and Friday. If it does, the start date remains unchanged. Otherwise, the formula moves the date to the next weekday. This is how we will do it. Start by typing the equal sign followed by if and opening parentheses. The first condition checks if the weekday of the start date, using the weekday function, is less than 6. If this condition is true, we will add a workday but will not move forward, so type 0. However, if the date falls on a weekend, we will move to the next weekday and close the parentheses. Next, in cell K9, type the equal sign and enter the workday function. Open parentheses, select J9, press comma, and add 1 to move to the next weekday. Then, drag the formula to the right to extend it across the row. Take your time dragging the formula far enough to fully capture our timeline. Now to display only the day, without the month and year, you can format the cells. Select the dates by pressing Ctrl plus right arrow, then press Ctrl plus 1. Go to Custom Format and type a single D. This will simplify the display. Above these dates, in cell J8, we'll add the day of the week again, but this time with a different format. Use the text function for this. The first parameter is the date located in J9, and the second parameter is the format. To show the day of the week, type 3 Ds within quotation marks. Drag the formula to the right to apply it across the row. First day of the month. Now we want to calculate the first weekday of each month and display it only when it falls within our range. Although this could be done manually, we'll automate it to adjust dynamically as the dates change. To calculate the first day of the month, we will use the date function. Start by typing equal date and open parentheses. The first parameter is the year, which you'll extract from the start date, so type year open parentheses, then select the date. The second parameter is the month. Do the same by typing month open parentheses and selecting the same date. The third parameter is the day, which will always be 1, as it refers to the first day of the month. However, if the first day of the month falls on a weekend, it won't appear in our range. To correct this, we need to wrap the date function inside the workday function. Start by adding workday at the beginning of our formula and opening parentheses. The first parameter is our start date, which is the date function we previously created. Now this next parameter is essential. Regardless of whether the formula returns a weekday or a weekend, we will always move one weekday backward first. To achieve this, enter -1 as the second parameter. Next, for the days parameter, add 1 to shift forward to the next available weekday. This ensures that if the date originally falls on a weekday, it remains unchanged. However, if it falls on a weekend, such as Sunday, the formula will first move it back to Friday, then immediately shift it forward to the next weekday, which in this case would be Monday. Finally, add an IF statement to ensure that the remaining cells stay blank while displaying the month only on the first weekday of the month. Start by typing IFS at the beginning of the formula and opening parentheses. The first condition checks if the calculated date is equal to cell J9. To do this, type the condition, then press F4 twice to fix the row reference. After that, type a comma. If this condition is true, we want the same date to be displayed but formatted to show only the month. To achieve this, use the text function. Type text open parentheses, select the date, and for the second parameter, type 3MM within quotation marks to format it as the month name. Now for the next condition. If the date is not equal to J9, we want the cell to remain blank. To do this, type quotation marks open close to indicate an empty cell. Finally, close all parentheses, and your formula is complete. Now that we have our headers set up, we can proceed to fill in the tasks and the other categories of our Gantt chart. For this video, we'll leave the conditional formatting, which will create the timeline and progress bar for the end of the tutorial. To make things faster, I will copy the tasks and subtasks directly from my main template. If you need to pause the video at this point to copy the tasks, feel free to do so. With the tasks and subtasks now pasted, we can assign each task to an employee. To do this, we need to first create a list of employees in a separate sheet, which will then be used for data validation. So, let's create a new sheet in our workbook and type in the names of the employees responsible for the tasks. Once this list is ready, we go back to the Gantt chart, select each row that contains a subtask, and hold the Ctrl key while selecting them. Then navigate to the Data tab, click on Data Validation, and select the List option. In the source box, click on it and switch to the sheet with the employee names. Highlight all the names you just typed and press OK. Now we have a drop-down list for each task. You can select an employee for each task from the drop-down. For this tutorial, I will assign the first task to Sophia. There are several rows to go through, so I will speed up this part of the process to save time. Once done, we'll move on to the next category, which involves the start and due dates. As you can see, I've added a helper column called Enter Days. This is where you'll input the number of days you want to add to the task. The total days and working days columns will then calculate the actual duration. For start and due dates, it's important to remember that our employees only work on weekdays. For the first start date, we'll simply type equals and select cell K9, which is January 1st, 2025. The due date, however, depends on the total days allocated to the task. To ensure it always falls on a weekday, we'll use the WORKDAY function. This function adjusts the date to the next working day if it falls on a weekend. The formula for the due date is straightforward. Start date plus the days added in our helper column. However, if the result falls on a Sunday, we must apply the same approach used when calculating the month, subtracting 1 and adjusting the day parameter to move to the next weekday. Now, take your time to organize the columns properly. Additionally, in cell D12, enter a formula using the WORKDAY function, selecting the previous date and moving to the next weekday. Once done, drag both formulas down and remove any unnecessary spaces where no dates are present. Next, we'll calculate the total days. If we add 5 days to a date, it won't count the first day. To account for this, we'll take the difference between the due date and the start date, then add 1 day. Finally, we'll calculate the working days for each task. In column H, we'll use the NETWORKDAYS function, which calculates the number of working days between the start and due dates, excluding weekends. Once this is set up, we can proceed to fill in the rest of the dates. I'll speed up this process, but be mindful of any gaps, as you may need to adjust the formulas manually. Now let's move on to the status column. This step is optional since there are many ways to display task status, including conditional formatting. However, to keep this tutorial straightforward, we'll use a simple approach. You can apply conditional formatting just like we did earlier with the employee names. I'll skip this part since we've already covered it. Finally, let's work on the task progress column. This is very easy to set up, but do note that the percentages may sometimes not align perfectly with the cells. If you want a more precise progress indicator, you might want to use a chart. We'll cover that in a separate video. For now, let's create a progress bar using conditional formatting. Select the entire section for the progress bar and go to the Home tab. Click on Conditional Formatting, choose Data Bars, and then go to More Rules. Under the type, select Number, set the minimum value to 0 and the maximum to 1. For the color, choose a custom one by entering the hex code number FF6F20. Set the direction from left to right and press OK. Once the formatting is applied, you'll see the progress bars appear. To finish, select the whole section and apply a percentage format to the cells. Enter the progress percentages for each task, and you'll see the bars update automatically. Take your time to fill in the numbers. I will skip this part and move on to the next segment of our video. In this section, we will apply conditional formatting to highlight the cells that fall between the start date and the due date. To achieve this, begin by selecting the entire range you want to format. Take your time, ensure to select the range that fall your task and dates. Next, navigate to the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting and choose Manage Rules. From there, select New Rule and pick the last option called Use a Formula to determine which cells to format. Now type an AND statement with two conditions. This will ensure that the cell is highlighted only when both conditions are true. Start by typing equal and open parentheses, then input the first condition. If K9 is greater than or equal to the start date. Follow this with the second condition. If K9 is less than or equal to the due date. Close the parentheses and proceed to formatting. Click on Format, go to the Fill tab, and select More Colors. In the Custom Color field, paste the hex code FFAB40, then press OK. Before finalizing, ensure that you fix the references to allow the formula to work correctly across the chart. Specifically, fix the row for K9 and the columns for D11 and E11, so the condition dynamically adjusts as it moves across the Gantt chart. Once done, press OK again to save the rule. Your Gantt chart will now highlight cells that fall within the specified date range. Now let's apply a progress bar to our Gantt chart. Because of the way the calculations are made, the percentage of completion in the chart will never be perfectly accurate, but we can make it quite close to reality, especially when the number of days in a task is even, like 10 days. You'll see how this works as we proceed. First, we'll build the formula in a cell, and then we'll apply it using conditional formatting. Let's start by going to cell K11 and typing an equal sign to begin. Use an AND statement, followed by opening parentheses. The first condition ensures that the date in K9 is equal to or greater than the start date. Add a comma to include the second condition. The second condition verifies that the date in K9 is less than or equal to the start date plus the number of days the task has progressed. To calculate this, multiply the percentage of progress for the task by the total duration. Close the parentheses to complete the AND statement. Don't forget to use absolute references for rows and columns where needed to ensure the formula works across the chart. Once the formula is ready, drag it across the range to see the results. If all cells return true, but for example T11 is also marked incorrectly, we'll need to refine the formula by subtracting 1 day. Add parentheses and include this subtraction to adjust the logic. Now that the formula is working as intended, apply it to the conditional formatting. First, select the entire range where our conditional formatting will be applied. Take your time to ensure that the range is correct. Then, go to Conditional Formatting. Choose Manage Rules, click New Rule, and select the option to use a custom formula. Paste the formula into the field. Then choose a fill color to represent the progress. In this example, I'll use the color FF5252. Once applied, the progress bar will visually update according to the task completion. Next, we'll add a highlight for the current day to help orient ourselves in the Gantt chart. Select the range to highlight. Go to Conditional Formatting, choose Manage Rules, and add a new rule. Use the formula K9 equal today, and open and close parentheses to identify the current date. Don't forget to fix the row by pressing F4 twice. Then, format the selected range. For the border, choose an orange color and apply it to both the left and right edges. Then, in the Fill section, set the pattern color to orange and the pattern style to 6.25% gray, and press OK. Ensure this rule is at the bottom of the rule list to prevent overlapping with other conditions. Press Apply to see the highlighted column for today's date. Now we'll add an icon to indicate when a task is fully completed. In K11, type a formula using an if statement with an AND condition. The condition should check if K9 equals the due date and if the task progress is at 100%. If the condition is met, insert a checkmark by pressing Windows + dot to open the emoji menu. If the condition isn't met, leave the cell blank. Remember to fix the rows and columns appropriately before dragging the formula across the table. After dragging it, the checkmark will appear wherever tasks are 100% complete. To color the checkmark, use Conditional Formatting again. Select the range, go to Manage Rules, add a new rule, apply the same formula used earlier, and format the font to green. Press OK, and the icons will now be styled as intended. Now that our Gantt chart is structured and organized, let's refine it further with a cleaner look and interactive features. First, we'll remove the grid lines to make the chart more polished. By default, Excel displays grid lines across the entire sheet, but removing them helps create a smoother, more professional appearance. To do this, we go to the View tab and uncheck the Grid Lines option. Instantly, the layout looks cleaner, making it easier to focus on the project schedule. Next, let's bring better organization to our chart by grouping related tasks and dates. Large projects often contain multiple subtasks under broader categories, so grouping them keeps everything structured. To do this, we first select the rows containing the subtasks, go to the Data tab, and click Group. A small Expand Collapse button appears on the left side. Now we can quickly hide or show subtasks with a single click. We repeat this process for other subtasks to ensure the project is neatly organized. With tasks grouped, we now group the dates in our timeline to make navigation easier. Without grouping, the Gantt chart might stretch far across the screen, making it hard to focus on specific time periods. To fix this, we select the range of dates for 1 month. Go to the Data tab, click Group, and now this time the columns will collapse. We repeat this process for the remaining months, allowing us to expand or collapse time periods as needed. Now let's add a title at the top of the chart to give it a professional look. We start by selecting rows 1 to 4 and increasing their height. Then, we insert a rounded rectangle shape from the Insert tab and drag it across these rows to create a header area. To style it, we go to the Shape Format tab, choose a shape fill color, remove the outline, and apply a shadow effect by right-clicking the shape and selecting Format Shape. Setting the shadow size to 102% and the blur to 14 gives it a sleek effect. To add the title text, we can either type directly into the shape or insert a text box. For this example, we name it Gantt Chart Project, but you can customize it for your specific project. To make the chart more interactive, we'll add icons for grouping and refreshing. We go to the Insert tab, select Icons, and search for Group to find a suitable image. After inserting and positioning it near our grouped tasks, we repeat the process to find a refresh icon and place it nearby. These icons will act as buttons for quick actions, making it easier to manage the chart. However, these icons won't function yet. We need to assign macros to them. First, we ungroup everything by clicking the Expand Collapse icons to make sure we're starting fresh. Then we go to the Developer tab, which can be enabled in Excel settings if it's not visible, and click Record Macro. A pop-up window appears, where we name the macro Group, then press OK. We then manually select the relevant rows or columns and group them using the Group function. Once done, we return to the Developer tab and click Stop Recording to save the macro. Now we assign the macro to the grouping icon. Right-clicking the icon, we select Assign Macro, choose Group, and Confirm. From now on, clicking the icon will automatically apply the grouping function. We repeat this process to record a macro for refreshing the sheet and assign it to the refresh icon. This small addition makes it much faster to expand or collapse sections without manually navigating the Data tab. With functionality in place, the final step is to fine-tune the visual design. To improve readability, we use alternating row colors to differentiate tasks, adjust column widths to keep text clear, and apply conditional formatting to highlight deadlines and milestones. These simple tweaks make the chart more user-friendly and visually appealing. Now, with everything set up, our Gantt chart is fully functional, well-organized, and easy to use. The final result is a professional project management tool that streamlines tracking and planning. You can download the free template using the link below. I hope this tutorial helped. If you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe for more videos like this. I'd really appreciate the support for this small channel. Once again, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.